Howdy. Glad you could be here today. Unless we're willing or content to live in a cave or back in the hills away from people, we're constantly communicating. We're trying to communicate with folks, and it's not easy. If we want to relate to other people, we must work at communication. There's so many things that can influence others the wrong way, as far as having them form an opinion of us. And speech is a very hard thing to control. The Bible says that a person that can not offend in word is a perfect man. I've not met any of those. I have met a few that thought they were. But there are so many things that can affect negatively our contact with other people. But among these is a genre that I call magic words. There are words that mean something different to the person that's hearing them than the one that's speaking them. Magic words goes beyond just misunderstanding. But when we say certain things, it means certain things to other folks and not necessarily what we intended. This is especially true when you're comparing American English to what some call the King's English. The word biscuit. My understanding is that in England, it would be what we in America would call a cookie. And what I call a biscuit are those baked goods that my mother made when I was a child. That was a huge, rich, baked item made mainly with flour. And I assure you every one of them that she made was with pork fat. And if you want a good biscuit, you need pork lard. Of course, it's popular among some to look down upon that. But the word biscuit means different things to different people. The biscuits you get at the typical restaurant are nothing like the biscuits that my mother made and others from my heritage in the mountains of West Virginia. If you are from the mountain country, clear down into the south, let's say from northern West Virginia down through the mountains in Georgia, then when I say biscuit, you mean exactly the same thing, or you understand the same thing that I mean. So that's one of my magic words. Education is a magic word. What some people term education, I call indoctrination. So if we use that word, we need to be careful that we're actually communicating what we intend. Orthodox is a word that's bandied about, especially among religious people. And if you want to be right, then you must be orthodox. Well, orthodoxy means such a variety of things as far as the manner of life or the things you practice and do, that it's almost meaningless unless it's defined in context. A word that's thrown about a lot as a magic word, dumb. Well, the meaning means unable to speak, but it's typically used to mean somebody that's not really bright. What do you mean? Do you mean the actual meaning of the word, or that you're speaking of somebody that doesn't react well to life? They don't process thoughts right, at least in our judgment. Words such as simple as arm. Well, that can be an arm, or it can be something, an arm used by the military. Dinner. I grew up understanding that dinner was the evening meal. Or rather, I got that completely backward. Dinner was the lunchtime meal, and supper was the evening meal. Hot, cool. What's hot? What's cool? It's cool today. Well, if you're on the north slope of Alaska in January, if you get a day close to zero, that's a pretty mild, warm day. Not here in Ohio, at any time. Peace. There's peace in a jail cell, usually, but there's no freedom. And peace without freedom is worthless. Again, a magic word. What is meant by the word peace? So when we're trying to relate to other people and communicate, convey a thought, or take part in a conversation, there are so many magic words that can shut down a conversation or an understanding, just close the door to further conversation. And it makes communication really difficult without taking the time to define our terms. And I've found that most people, their disagreements come because their definition of terms is not the same. So we can make assumptions based on what somebody said that are not correct at all. We can miss an effort at a joke, or we can miss satire. April Fool jokes are common this way. What we might call the best April Fool jokes are ones that people might buy into for a little bit until they realize they've been had. And then the correct response is to laugh. But some people get mad because they had a joke played on. Well, we can laugh through life, or we can be mad and sad and make ourselves miserable, and that's a matter of choice. So when we're trying to communicate in any manner, we must be careful with our words and our phrasing that what people hear is what we actually mean. It's not an easy job, but if we want to do it, we'll put forth the effort. Making assumptions is a very dangerous thing. Assuming can be good, but we need to take great care in our communications that our assumptions don't lead us astray. Now there's a little thing that you've probably heard that I'll share with you. If you break the word assume down, then the first part of it is us, and then you, and then me, and assumptions often make an ass out of you and me. I think that's good to remember. Be careful with your assumptions, especially if you're trying to communicate. If there's some problem, maybe you need to ask, what do you mean by that? If we want to communicate, if we want to relate in a positive manner to people, then it requires effort and desire on our part. Unless you're content living in that cave back in the mountains, you need to communicate. Don't think you can get through life and be a good influence or have others think well of you if you don't put the effort forth to communicate. And of course, before you're going to do that, you must have the desire. You must care what others think. You must put the effort forth that comes from your desire to communicate and work to be understood, to convey a thought or an understanding. There are people that have to struggle with this every day, technical writers, for instance. And oftentimes, a technical writer is chosen because they know the subject, but they might not know the type of person or the people that are probably going to read their work. You have that oftentimes with programmers. A really good programmer is somebody that enjoys sitting in a room by themselves for hours and typing on a keyboard and enjoy the logical challenge involved. And we have a lot of shoddy software that you and I deal with every day, if we are in the modern world at all, that are written by programmers, programs that are written by people who don't relate well to life. They live on donuts and soda in a room by themselves. They don't relate to the real world. If we want to communicate, we have to relate. We have to pattern our speech, our writings, our actions, so that people understand. That's not easy, but if you're having trouble with relationships, it may not be because your heart's in the wrong place, but it may just be because you haven't put forth the effort that the right desire will lead you to. Well, at least that's my idea on things, and maybe I've given you something to chew on. I hope so. Have a good day.